9, 10 in the morning, and you get to listen to a chemistry teacher. This is going to be awesome. Yeah. I know that's what you were thinking this morning, right? I get to go listen to a chemistry lecture. This is going to be a great day. So let's start off with the intricacies of quantum mechanics, shall we? It's a long and storied tale. No. My name is Jeff Charbonneau. I am a high school teacher at Zillah High School in Zillah, Washington. I know you know where that is because we have a stoplight now in our town. We are huge. I teach at a rural agricultural school where we only have 400 students in our high school, grades 9 through 12. Only about 1,300 students in our district, K through 12. So it's about 100 kids per grade level. And yet Zillah High School offers more than 65 college credits on our campus amongst our just 22 teachers. So we've been doing dual credit for a while now. So this morning, since I am a teacher, I've got to ask a favor of you. First, I'd like you to take notes. Not on what you like what I say, but what you don't like. See, we're going to have some question time at the end, and I would love the opportunity to actually answer some of those questions and to be challenged on some of my views. Because you see, the thing is, I come from the classroom perspective. So if I disagree with some of your ideas on concurrent enrollment, it'll be really easy to dismiss me because I'm just a classroom teacher. And then I'm also working with the Washington Student Achievement Council, so if you disagree with some of my ideas, you can just dismiss me because I'm a policy guy too. So no matter what, you can dismiss my ideas, okay? It works out great. Or we can have a shared discussion about what really is going on in concurrent enrollment programs. Have a true discussion about what dual credit really means. Now, I'll try my best to call it concurrent enrollment, but I'm sorry. It's dual credit. It's running start in the high school. It's college in the high school. It's tech prep. It's one of these other names that we give to it, right? But you know what it all really boils down to is one thing in my classroom, and that's the power of perception. So let me ask you a question. How many of you would voluntarily take high school chemistry over again? How many of you voluntarily took it the first time? Now, I said voluntarily. You see, there's a problem with high school science. There's a stigma. When I say the words quantum mechanics, you say, no way, too hard, impossible, not gonna happen. Oh, that's for rocket scientists. My high school kids are saying exactly the same things. They're saying, I can't do that, that's too hard, and it's my job to reverse that mentality. You see, I was absolutely blessed as a child. My parents taught me that I could go and do anything I wanted. Every child needs that same message, and they're not getting it. They're not getting the message that they can go and do and become anything. So dual credit for me really is about the power of perception. It's about looking at a student in the eye and saying, you are smart enough to go to college if you want to. And not only are you smart enough, but you're doing it right now while in high school. You see, the really crazy thing is, when I started teaching at Zillah, and I started teaching that physics class, we had about 12 kids per year enrolled in physics. And as I made my classes harder and harder and harder and eventually got them articulated for college credit, more kids signed up. The harder you make the classes, the more kids enroll in them. It's such an irony, isn't it? We would think that it's the opposite direction, but it's not. It's the power of perception. When you tell a kid that they are smart enough and that they are doing amazing work, guess what? They believe it too. That's what concurrent enrollment is really all about. So I'd like to start off by saying, okay, a lot of different people have a lot of different ideas on concurrent enrollment, about what it's for and why we do it. So why is it that we do these things? Many times when I go to conferences and I talk about concurrent enrollment, one of the first things that people bring up is, oh, it's all about the cost. We're going to reduce cost for students. I say, you know what? You're almost right. You are almost there. You see, college is really expensive. We all know that. We live that reality every single day, right? We get that. And it is a little bit about reducing costs for our student, but that's not really why we do dual credit enrollment. That's not really what it's about. What it's actually about, what you should be talking about, is not about the cost of things, but about the opportunity gap that we have in our schools. You see, concurrent enrollment allows us to address the opportunity gap that is out there. The gap that exists because some of our students cannot afford to go to college. They're not going to have the grants. They're not going to have the scholarship opportunities or whatever it is. There are opportunity gaps there. So the next time you go back and you're talking to your state legislature about new funding ideas or new fiscal policy, let's start talking about the opportunity gap and not talk about the costs. Because the costs are the data points. Those are the things that you can point to on the piece of paper. The opportunity gap is really what it's all about. So what are we doing in Washington State? The Washington Student Achievement Council has proposed legislation for this next year to make sure that every single student who enrolls in a dual enrollment or dual credit coursework, it's paid for by the state of Washington, not paid for by the student. You say, now wait a minute, that's really expensive. We don't have the money to do things like that. Now I know that every state has plenty of money and lots of extra spending available to them. So it's really easy to get legislation passed, right? Especially for fiscal notes. It's really simple. You see, the thing is that there is a cost savings there. We know that it's more cost effective if we pay for it ahead of time. There's lower costs involved. It's more effective for students. We know that students involved in dual credit programs are much more likely to go to college, are much more likely to complete college. So it makes fiscal sense. But at the same time, doesn't it make sense from the idea of providing a free and basic and appropriate education for all students? That's what we try to do, right? We aim in high schools, we aim in public schools to provide a free and appropriate education for all students. So if we're really going to do that, shouldn't we do that for the kids that are playing by all the rules too? The kids that did everything that we asked of them. They went through and they took algebra while in middle school, and they got themselves ready for the advanced courses in high school. We should not be punishing them by asking them to pay extra when they get to their juniors and senior years. Instead, we should be rewarding them and supporting them as we do it. We should be narrowing the opportunity gap, and it should be paid for by the state or by other organizations other than the student's pocket. That's what it's really about. You see, it's also about improving learning, too. I hear a lot of people talk about, the kids, they're just not ready for college. All right, come on, be honest. How many of you are really ready for college? I mean, really ready, okay? We got to make learning happen at a much higher, at a much more rigorous level. I completely agree with that. We do need to worry about improving our learning, but you know what? It's not just the high school students that need to improve their learning. It's the high school teachers, and it's the college faculty. We all need to improve our learning. So while we might focus in on the fact that we're offering these really cool classes while in high school, this advanced level stuff, I can talk about how my physics kids are doing quantum mechanics, how my engineering students are using 3D printers and laser cutters, and they're learning CAD while in high school. I can talk about all that cool stuff, but it's not about improving learning, it's about getting a skilled workforce. That's really the goal, isn't it? I mean, if we're going to be bluntly honest with ourselves, it's really not about the learning, it's about the skilled workforce. So in Washington State, we have many different goals out there, and one of them is that we have a skilled and viable workforce. Because isn't that kind of the goal of education? The goal of education is that the next generation that comes after us can replace us, right? I'll tell you what, I want to retire someday, and if they're not paying into Social Security, I'm done. Well, they have to have good jobs. If they don't have good jobs, Social Security is gone, and I'm in trouble. They have to be a skilled workforce. So when we talk about this, we need to make sure we're calling a spade a spade. Yes, we're improving learning so that we can get that skilled labor force. And what does that skilled labor force need? Well, it needs a lot of things. Now, I totally 100% agree that STEM education is important. Science, technology, engineering, and math. I'm a science teacher, for crying out loud. But you know what? I'm also the yearbook advisor. You knew that because chemistry and yearbook go hand in hand, right? It's a very natural progression there. You'd also naturally expect that your physics teacher is also your assistant drama director. Woohoo! But I am. So while I see the need for STEM education, I see the need for our next generation of computer engineers, our next generation of scientists, our next generation that's going to propel us into that new technological reality, I also understand that a liberal arts education is also vitally important as well. It's definitely part of the system when you talk about an architect being able to understand the weight and load distribution in a building, but we also want it to look kind of pretty too. So we better include the arts as well. We need to look at all aspects of education, not just STEM. I hear a lot of people talk about the articulation agreements. They talk about how we're going to make an articulation agreement between this high school and this college. And they point to some of these schools as being these nice lighthouses. And how isn't it great that Zillah High School has 65 college credits on their campus, and they're articulated with Central Washington University and Eastern Washington University, and Yakima Valley Community College. Aren't these all these great? They are great for the kids in Zillah. What about the kids in Granger? What about the kids in Sunnyside? What about the kids in the neighboring schools and the neighboring districts? What about them? You see, it's not actually about getting the agreements between the high schools and the colleges. That's not the goal. The goal is a true integrated P20 system. A true P20 system. Now, what do I mean by that? Well, I'll tell you what, at the high school ranks, in the K-12 ranks, we've had this wonderful thing for the last couple of years called education reform. Maybe you've heard of it, okay? Education reform works really, really well because I know that it works well at home. When my wife doesn't cook something very, very good at home, I go to her and say, honey, you need to reform. Now you know why I'm on the road a lot. We've gone through and we've looked at the K-12 system so closely. We've turned it upside down, left and right, and we've turned every single leaf that we possibly can, looking for ways to improve our K-12 system. Concurrent enrollment, to me, is the way that we improve the path from 12 to 20. It's the way that we improve our path across there. How? Simple. High school teachers talking to college professors in the same room at the same time about content. That's what this is about. So many college professors will say the kids are coming in ill-prepared. So many of the high school teachers are saying, hey, we're giving you the best we got. We're just preparing them over here, and the colleges are expecting them over here. You know how many times I've gone and talked with college professors in the sciences, and they didn't even know what the next generation science standards were? The next generation science standards in Washington State were adopted over a year and a half ago, and they're the standards that I'm supposed to teach to while in high school. And yet the college professors hadn't even read them yet. If we're going to have a true system, then we need to be talking the same language. We have to understand what's happening within the K-12 system if we're going to understand what's happening at higher ed. I need to understand what's happening at the higher education institutions as well. I need to understand why there is a difference between Chemistry 181 at Central Washington University and Chemistry 151 at Eastern Washington University, and why in the world are those different? Because in the high school world, it doesn't work that way. In the high school world, Chem A over here is the same as Chem A over here, and they are the same. So at some point in time, we have to sit down in the same room and have those discussions. I have seen no other program that allows high school teachers and college professors to be in the same room at the same time. That's what dual credit does. You have to articulate that in your states. You have to articulate that in your communities. This is not about high school kids getting college credit. This is about reforming one single system without silos. That's the goal here. That's the bigger picture. So what is it all about? Is it about taking those college-bound kids and giving them a head start into college? Well, kinda. It is about looking at some of my students who I know are going to go on and become nuclear engineers, or students who are going to go become pharmacists or doctors or physicists or whatever it is. It is about giving them a little bit of a leg up. But you know what it's more about than that? It's about looking at the young student who is trying to decide whether or not they even should go to college or not. Whether or not they should even attempt to go to college. And if we give them the opportunity to take their first college class while in high school, what an opening experience that is for them. Their eyes open up and see what becomes possible for them. So it's not actually about college bound. If your argument is that you're going to help these kids who are already going to go to college, you know what? Great, that's nice, but it's actually about all the kids. It's about making sure that all students have access to this. Now, I mean all kids. And this one's going to be a little bit controversial. You see, all means all. It all means kids no matter where they live. I teach in a small, rural high school. If you want to talk to the chemistry department chair, you talk to me, because I am the chemistry department. If you want to talk to the physics department chair, you talk to me, because I am the physics department. If you want to talk to the engineer, I am the engineering department. I teach all three, and I'm the only guy that does it. Do you expect me to have 3 different master's degrees in subject area? For the answer in most of your states, the answer is yes. I'm the 2013 National Teacher of the Year. There are 3.3 million public education teachers in the United States of America. There's one National Teacher of the Year, and even that credential does not allow me to teach college credit in some of your states. My master's degree is in education. My bachelor's is in biology. Do you notice how I don't teach biology? I'm national board certified. When I went to some of the universities and I asked if I could do dual credit, they said, well, what's your credentials? I said, national board certification. They didn't even know what it was. If you don't understand the K-12 system, then how can we possibly start the conversation to begin with? So when I say all students, I say this. If the only route to allowing a teacher to teach concurrent enrollment classes, if the only route is a master's degree in subject area, you are specifically targeting rural schools and discriminating against those students. You are. And then you got to flip to the other side. Now, I hope there's some questions for that later, okay? I promise you're going to fire back at me. Okay? So there's questions that come up instantly. They say, well, wait a minute. How can we possibly know that you have the right credentials then to teach the classes? Which is really a veiled approach at saying, how do we know you're smart enough? Okay? You don't have a master's degree, you're dumb. Okay? I'm sorry, I hate to say it that way, but that's what I hear coming back. That's what I hear as a high school teacher. You are not smart enough to teach these courses unless you have a master's degree in subject area. I say, so give me an alternate path. Give me some other way to prove competency. Now, I'm a big fan of national boards. I think that's one way to do it. I think another way to do it would be a mini-master's. I already have a master's degree in education. Why not just ask me to take an additional 3 or 4 classes rather than taking an entire master's degree? But if you're going to ask me to do that, you better actually offer the classes. You laugh, but it's true. You got to actually offer the classes and give me the opportunity to do it. And don't offer them Monday through Friday at 9 a.m. People say, well, why don't you just go get your master's degree in chemistry? I say, that's great. How many years would you like me to take off from teaching? Oh, you don't have to do that. Just go take it online. How many of you have online chemistry master's degrees? Right, okay. How many of you have summer-only chemistry master degrees? Wow, it's staggering, the number, okay? It's insane. So what are you actively doing as a university? What are you actively doing as a state to allow these opportunities for your teachers? And if you are not giving the teachers the opportunity to meet your criteria, then your state is actively discriminating against the smaller schools. I'm sorry, straight up, you are. Why is it not against the bigger schools? I think it's against the bigger schools too, but what's much more likely? At a bigger school, I might teach only chemistry all day long. And so now I don't have to have 3 master's degrees, I only need to have 1. You need to give your teachers the opportunity to meet the bar. You see, here's the deal. When I started asking if I could teach for college credit, most of the universities said no. And every time they told me no, I said, set the bar and tell me what I have to reach. I was told no more than 9 different times by the same department chair that I now work for. Finally, it came down to the end, and I said, you know what? Just let me come substitute teach on your campus. Treat me like I'm an adjunct faculty applicant. I'm going to come and substitute teach Chemistry 151 with all of your chemistry students. Bring your entire department in. Have them watch me teach. Don't even tell me what the lesson is the night before. I'll just show up. I know it's about chemistry, and then you tell me what to teach. Give me 5 minutes, and I'll do it. I was so bluffing. It wasn't even funny. And then he said, yes. So I went. Now, he was nice enough. He actually told me the subject the night before at about 8 o'clock the night before. So I had a little bit of time to prepare. I showed up the next morning. I went in. I taught the class for about 50 minutes, did some questions with the students afterwards. Then I got questions from the faculty for about the next 45. And it was pot shots about anything and everything that was Chemistry 151. It was about this subject and this one over here. And I answered them all apparently well enough that they finally said yes. I said simply, set a bar and allow teachers to try and reach that bar. Do not put up roadblocks. There are other universities that I've tried to work with as well. One of them says no to dual credit in chemistry whatsoever. Just flat out, they say no. I said, well, you know what? If it's not for me, that's fine. I know 3 other teachers in Washington State who have doctorates in chemistry, and they say no. The guy has a doctorate from UC Berkeley in chemistry, and you say no because of the fear of dual credit. When I say all students, I mean all. You need to actively seek out ways for teachers to be able to integrate this into their coursework. Next, professional development. We say, okay, well, if we're going to get these teachers, we need to make sure that they are actually adequately trained. And I say, yes, this is exactly where you should be. This is exactly your wheelhouse. You are a university, you are a community college, you are training our teachers to begin with, so why don't you continue to teach them now? These higher ed faculty members that say that these teachers don't know enough, then teach us about it. Give us the opportunity to learn from you. And then, hey, by the way, there's this other thing called pedagogy that I had to take while I was in school. Maybe I could teach you a little bit about it too. Did you know that there are alternate means other than lecture to get points across? Huh? Did you know that? I could help you with a few of them. You see, the point is that this professional development is both ways. The teacher in the high schools are going to learn, and the faculty members at the university are going to learn too. Now, some people see this as a great opportunity. Hey, professional development, we know how to do that. So we're just going to offer a whole bunch of courses for teachers to take, and then we'll make more money in our ed department, and we'll make more money over here because now we're offering more classes. Nah, don't do that. Don't do that. I want it two-way. I want the faculty members there too. And when I say the faculty members, I want all of them. Any of them that are going to be involved in that 100-level coursework, I want them in the room at the same time. So that suddenly I know as a high school chemistry teacher that I am not gypping my kids. I know that they are getting the same thing that's going to happen at the university. You know, when I talk about dual credit with some of the faculty members that I work with now, you know, I do more labs in high school than they do in college. Yeah. You know that some of my kids actually end up doing more, we do more chapters, more content than they do at the college. And so I've been kind of pushing the colleges, hey, you know, you could do more up there too. It's not just one directional. But it's not just about professional development, it's about changing educator quality in general. You see, in the K-12 system, we have a problem. We have a problem in that at the age of 22, when I started teaching, I was called a teacher. And when they pull my dead corpse out of the classroom when I'm 85, I'm still going to be called a teacher. Where's my career arc? Where's my room for advancement? Where's my room for teacher leadership? Where's my ability to do something different within the school day to get different recognition, different authority, different rulemaking? Where's my career arc? Ironically enough, I think dual credit does that. I think dual credit gives high school teachers the opportunity to strive for something more, to work professionally with their colleagues, possibly the opportunity to do some journaling, actually write some journal articles, become published, work on true research with those university faculty members. It's true educator quality movements. That's what a good program does. It doesn't stop short at saying, okay, we got you articulated for high school, college agreement, great, you're going to teach these classes and you move on. It's ongoing and making sure that those teachers are constantly progressing in their skill set. I want to see those high school teachers have some of the same requirements as your faculty members. Now, should they have to publish it as often? No. Should they publish every once in a while? Yes, they should. Why? Because they're doing the same things that the colleges are doing. And it allows you to increase educator quality across the board. It teaches your university professors about pedagogy, and it teaches your high school teachers about content. Other folks are worried about enrollment rates. They're worried about enrollment, and I hear enrollment questions a lot, particularly in Washington State. So we've got a couple of different programs going. We've got a traditional Running Start program. Running Start is where high school students leave their home high school and they go take classes on a community college or a college campus. That's our traditional Running Start route. If we expand dual credit in the high schools, aren't we going to see a drop-off in Running Start? Aren't we going to see a drop-off in traditional on-campus programs? I say no, you're not. You're not. You might have a small dip, but you know what? Kids that are going off high school campus are leaving for a reason. It's because they don't want to be on the high school campus anymore. Okay? They want that pre-college experience to be at the college. They want to go over there. You're not going to see a big drop-off in rates. Now, I could be completely wrong, and I'm really sorry. You can sue me later. I'm worth about $1.50, so it'll really help your bottom line. But guys, I'll tell you what. I've seen high school kids. Most of the high school kids want to stay on campus, and those that want to leave figure out a way to do so. Okay, so we're not really competing with one another. We're competing for different kids. If you're worried about your enrollment rates, then isn't dual credit the way to make it happen? I mean, there's been study after study after study that shows that if you're involved in dual credit, then you're much more likely to go on to college, so you should be doing more dual credit. And at the same time, how many of your college faculty members hate teaching the 100 level courses? Yeah, because what do we do with the 100 levels? Whoever the new faculty person is, they get stuck down there at the 100 level. These are courses you guys don't even want to teach anyway. Let us do it. But if you're worried about enrollment rate, you're worried about the wrong thing. What you really should be worried about is your educational attainment. Now, we set a goal in Washington State, and that's a pretty lofty one. 70% of all Washingtonians, 70% of all Washingtonians will have some sort of 2-year, 4-year, or credential for all Washingtonians, ages 18 to 36. Excuse me, 24 to 36, ages 24 to 36. 70%. Right now we're at 50%. We got a little ways to go to make that happen. If we are going to increase educational attainment, if we're going to allow people to get degrees, certification, trades, marks, whatever it happens to be, we've got to set them on a path for it. It's not actually about getting them in the door. It's not about enrollment. It's about completion. And if we have a program that we know helps us with our completion rates, shouldn't we be going all in on those? So what is this really about? What is all of this stuff really about? It's about giving hope to our educational system. It's about giving hope to our students, hope to our teachers, hope to our universities that maybe we're all going to actually work together in one gigantic ring. When you go to your legislatures, when you go to your policymakers and you start talking about things like costs and improving learning and articulation agreements, and you talk about professional development and college-bound students and enrollment rates, when you start talking about all of these things, you're only talking about a small slice of the pie. Your view needs to get a little bit bigger, and we need to start talking about what we're really doing to the whole education system. And what we're really doing is we're working on lowering the opportunity gap. We're worried about creating a skilled workforce. We're worried about creating a true P20 system that is actually going from pre-kindergarten all the way up through possibly a doctorate degree. We're doing it for all of our kids so that all of our teachers and all of our students can be of quality and so that they can attain their goals. Why? For the simple answer that we need to have a successful next generation. The generation that comes after us has to be better than we are today. I have seen the generation that I live in. I don't like it. Okay? We've got to do better. We have to. There's so many compelling reasons for us to improve. It's not even funny. But when you talk about dual credit, when you talk about concurrent enrollment, I want you to not think of the weeds, to not think of the little policy agreements that we have to set up here and there. And if you want to talk about those, I'd love to talk to you about those. All the little challenges that we all have, all the reasons why we shouldn't do things. Well, what if we stopped doing what we've always been doing and started doing what we always knew we should be doing? What if we did that? for a change? What if you started saying, oh, well, instead of in policy it says that we can't, what if instead you say, hey, who writes that policy? Can we go change that policy? You see, the best part about teaching in a small rural school is that when I wanted to change the chemistry curriculum, I went to the chemistry department chair and had an argument with them about changing that curriculum. And after weeks and weeks of battle, we eventually settled on an agreement. We just simply get things done. So when I start working at the state level and I start working at regional levels and whatnot, trying to figure out how we're going to solve this stuff, I started asking very simple questions. Why not? So stop settling on we shouldn't because so-and-so said so. Instead, start asking why not. If you do that, you'll be focused on the right things. For me, I try to stay focused on what's truly vitally important in this entire discussion. That's my daughter, Michaela. That picture scares me. On so many levels, that picture scares me. She's beautiful, isn't she? I mean, she's a gorgeous little girl. That's a problem. You see, she's going to grow up, and somebody's going to fall in love with her someday. I don't get to pick who that somebody is. We have to teach every single boy and girl in the United States with the best possible education because somebody's going to marry my daughter. And if you don't think that that's going to happen in your family, if you don't think that it's not going to come home to roost, then here's a little side story for you. I got in one fight in my entire life. One fight in my whole life. This is my best friend, Matt Darlene. We were in the 6th grade. We go walking into class. I walk in the door. Matt hits me in the back of the head. I turn. I clock him one square on the chin. He turns, hits me square on the chin. Huge fight. Neither one of us had a bruise. It was a big fight. Why did we get in a fight? I already told you we were 6th grade boys. Okay, that's just kind of how it works. I remember the substitute teacher comes over to us, because you know it was on the sub day, right? Substitute teacher comes over to us, picks us up, carries us down to the office. I'll never forget that sub. His name was Fred Bauer. Never forget that guy. Fast forward about 5 years later. I see this cute girl walking down the hall. She's a senior, I'm a junior. I'm like, hey, you want to go to prom? She's like, sure, pick me up at my house. I'm not a smart man. Monica Bauer, Fred Bauer. Monica Bauer, Fred Bauer. I should have put the two together. There's only one Bauer family in the whole town. I knock on the door. Fred Bauer answers the door. Boom! Time stops. I stood there for 3 years. I thought the only thing that a high school junior boy would think at that time, maybe he forgot. First words out of his mouth, how's Matt Darlene doing these days? He remembered. His granddaughter's pretty cute. Yeah. Fred Bauer's my father-in-law. That should scare you. Because that kid in that classroom that got in a fight on that day is now a member of your family. That's what we need to have in the back of our minds. That kid. That kid who we gave up on. That kid who we didn't think was going to amount to much. Because I'll tell you what, as a substitute teacher for a couple of months right after I got my degree, I made some snap judgments about kids. I shouldn't have, but I did. Fred Bauer could have made some snap judgments about me too. Imagine what we do to our kids when we make those snap judgments. Imagine the snap judgments that we make about teachers who do not have degrees in subject area. Imagine the snap judgments that we make about who can and who cannot afford college credits. Imagine the snap judgments that we make about whether or not policy will or will not be approved by the legislature. You know what? My main message from today is simply this. Give it a chance, because it might end up surprising you in the end. It just might make an absolute world of difference. I thank you so very much for your attention this morning. I greatly appreciate it, and I would love to take questions. Thank you. Thank you.